Morning dudes and dudettes. So today I'm going to change out radiator on my P38 Range Rover, but with a twist. I've got to swap out thermo fans from the old one to the new one, and I've never been that happy with how they're just bolted straight through the radiator. So I'm going to try something. No, I've never seen it tried before, but we'll see. It may or may not work. This could be a disaster. It could be brilliant. Either way, we'll find out together. So yeah, welcome to the adventure. I'll be back. All right, like I said, I'm back. So, P38, which is currently a, meant to be a V8. It's actually a V6, or V6.5 at the best push. Got a head gasket gone. I put some brad weld in it, well, about a year ago, which held. I have got another engine which is going in 8 days. I'll cover that as well. But I'm now prepping the cooling system, getting ready for this new engine, because I've got a feeling this radiator is blocked. And my reasoning behind it, because there's no real way of testing it, is that when it gets up to temperature, the top corner, far corner there above the rear fan, gets really, really hot, and yet the middle of the radiator stays, well, you can leave your hand on it. So I think it's got a blockage. That won't help, so I've invested in a Nissan's brand, Nissens, which is a OEM brand radiator, to put in it to make sure that I know I've got a good radiator. I'll try it and see how we go. If I can get that sorted out, the next plan is to put an auxiliary electric pump in line. That's another trick, but not much room. I'll show you that one as well another day. But for today, let's make a start. First things first, undo that. Why the hell is he undoing that, you say? Well, if you don't, it's like trying to pour water out of a bottle without an air release, or fuel out of a fuel can without taking the bleed screw off. You don't release the air here, it takes an awful long time for water to fall out of there. So, yeah, release that first, and next, I'm going underneath. So I'll be back when I'm lying underneath this thing. Hello lovely peeps. Yeah, I'm now lying underneath a Range Rover. I should point out, apologies for the noise outside, it's the cicadas. It's currently 32 degrees and what, 10:30 in the morning, North New South Wales, Australia. So it's a bit warm and the cicadas are having a wonderful time, making it a bit loud. But anyway, so that's the base of the radiator here, as you can see, and the fan's just up in there. So the first thing I've really got to do is drain the coolant. Now, I don't know if I can do this two-handed, so basically this here, that is a drain plug. So I'm going to undo it. I can't do it with one hand, so I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to undo that and drain the coolant out. Now, if your radiator doesn't have one of these or anything similar, sometimes they're up this end, sometimes here, sometimes on the edge. If you haven't got one, well, I'm afraid your next option is to undo the bottom hose to the radiator. Now, that's okay, and that's commonly used, apart from it's real messy. When you release that, you are going to get wet. There's no two ways about it. So be ready. If you undo that to release all the coolant, you're going to get wet. It's going to go everywhere. Just be ready for that. But I'm lucky because the Range Rover guys actually decided to put the drain plug in. Yeah, so here we go. Oh, and by the way, this Range Rover came with the factory fitted optional extra of rust proofing. Look at all that extra oil, beautiful, all the way down the back. So yeah, rust proofing from the factory. God, I love an old Range Rover. Anyway, I'll drop this out, I'll show you the coolant draining out, and I'll be back. So I've got half a turn, and I can now do it by hand. So I've got a bucket. It's a 10 litre. I don't know how much this is going to hold. I can't remember. I'll try and get myself and the camera out of the way. And just let's get rid of all of this coolant, which, there you go. I got some on the phone, but now, this head gasket issue I've had with this car is an interesting one. I have no oil in the coolant, and I have no coolant in the oil. So it's a head gasket that is leaking to the atmosphere, which means it's leaking onto the outside. that's not unusual for these, and I'm pretty sure I know which one it is. The rear left-hand bank of cylinders, they get pretty hot, and they tend to go there anyway. So it's a weird one, and the rad weld that I threw in before, about a year ago, fixed the problem while I rebuilt another engine, but it didn't really fix it properly, and a couple of weeks ago it got very hot. I was driving home in 40-degree heat and dropped a couple of cylinders. So that's what's happened with this, hence why the new one's going in. Yeah, if you've got no oil in the coolant and you've got no coolant in the oil, it doesn't necessarily mean your head gasket is okay, which some mechanics will tell you. But when it's blown to the outside of the engine and not through the water passages, then you get clean oil, clean water. No real symptoms apart from it gets very hot and it pressurizes the system. So just be aware of that. All right, now that's draining. I'm going to go back up top and we'll carry on from there. All right, next thing, we're going to release the top hose. So I don't like these sort of clamps. I might put different ones on, but basically just release that, push it back up here. If you're wondering what this is, it's the water temperature sensor for releasing the relay, which makes the fans engage. So that's a new fitting for my electric fans. That's all it is. I'll explain that later. But basically now it's top hose, which has been off a couple of times. Sometimes these are tricky. Do not be tempted to try and dig in here. Don't do that, because you might break these plastic tops. Generally a quick twist sideways one way and then the other, you'll crack the seal, and you should be able to just work it, and then out it comes. Now there will be some fluid in it, and I just let that go. So that's there and that's there. I'll push this around there. Going to release that. Easy. Push that clip in, pull, release. And just so I can move that out of the way, and then we're good. So that's that top hose done. Next thing I've got to do is release this. So I'll get a socket and we'll do that. And I'm not sure. Oh, I think it's a 7. I think it's a 7 mil. Yep. So I'm using a socket. A lot of people just use a screwdriver. It just happens to be what I've got lying around at the moment. So release that. Get the hose clamp, jubilee clip, whichever side of the pond you live on, depends on what you call it. Release that down there, and again, gentle to slide that out. Mind your knuckles when it goes, trust me, I know. Be careful, these things are also, they get very brittle. This gets really brittle. If you leave it too much on there, you'll break it. So just go a bit easy. There is a tool you can put in that's like 2 fingers, and you can just push them out. So that's easy. So that's the top part. One more little thing. I had to use a cable tie to fix my washer bottle just temporarily, because well, it's an old Range Rover. So we've now got hose off, and water's out. We're on track. I've got a couple of bolts now down the bottom which have to come out so I can then slide the radiator up. But before I do that, I have to disconnect all this wonderful wiring that I've put on for the Thermo fans. I'll be back. Back underneath again, and now we have to release the bottom hose. Very easy to get at, luckily, in this one. There it is, sorry. Again, can't do it with one hand. I need 2. It's the same sort of clamp for the top as it is the bottom. So I'm just going to squeeze that, slide it up, and then gently pull that hose off. And then I'll show you where the 2 bolts are that attach the base of the radiator in. Yeah, so there it is. That's that hose off now. So the bottom hose and the top hose and the overflow hose are now all disconnected. The wiring for my Thermo fans I'm going to leave at the moment and see if I can't lift this radiator out and lay it on the top and have enough wire so that I can sort out this wire at the top. So there's a bolt there. on the very base of the radiator at the side. That has got to come out. I'm going to get that out. And this will check a while I do that. Admire the scenery. It's a beautiful day. You know what? You get the gist. It's a solid 100. That bolt has to come out. There is something you have to be careful of. In here, where is it? There, in there. That little square block, that's actually the threaded part. That is where the bolt goes through. So that will fall out when your bolt comes out. So that bolt is now out. And that is the little piece that slides up into that slot. So make sure you keep that. Important, you'll need it. Other side. There it is. That's the next one. So that's the same. And again, it has under there a piece right in there. That's another one of those blocks. Same deal. That's going to come out. That block's going to fall out. So once I've done that, that's the whole of this bottom of this radiator has been released, and it should lift out. There's 2 guiding slots in the bottom of this radiator. So you come along and there's these things. Sorry about moving the camera around. Them. And then that is part of the radiator. That is not. That's a rubber grommet, and that is a guide for the radiator to sit down into to stop it moving around the bottom. There's one there, and there's another one right there. Just a little tip while I'm laying here. I've released that with a bolt. Now you can see these holes where that part of the radiator was in. I've worked out over the years that it's actually easier to push than pull. So when I'm ever doing this kind of thing, I've actually given the radiator a bit of a push upwards to release the bottom, just so it's a bit easier to pull from the top, because I have had them grab before, and yeah, it's no fun on the back trying to pull up and lift like that. So when I'm laid down here, I've just given it a push, release them two. It's moved about an inch higher, and now, yeah, back up top. So, little tip, make sure you keep all your things in and around the same place, somewhere safe, away from dirt and dust, and that way you'll know where they are. So now everything's undone. See these parts here, then that little bit there slides down into this metal, and because I've pushed it up that little inch, it's released it. That's also another little catch point. So they're both released. I'm hoping I've got enough wire released. I don't think there's anything else in there that's going to prevent this from coming up. So I'll just set this up to the side and we'll give it a lift and see what happens. Let's see if this will lift out then, shall we? Now, I'm really short, so, and I have to be careful because of these wires, but gently, gently, gently try and get this out of the hole. Checking my wires, making sure nothing's catching. Come on, baby. Not that it's heavy, it's just jammed. One radiator, and because I'm not that attached to it, because I'm changing it out, I can risk doing this to a radiator. If you're doing this, be careful if you're going to reuse your radiator. It's really easy to put holes in the top of this rad. I can afford to be a bit blasé with this. You might not be able to. You might not have the fan problem that I've got though as well. And I've got to take these off and put them on the new one. That's where the trick is. I'm going to try something different. See you soon. Sorry about the delay, because some muppet decided he was going to hardwire one of these in, and so I had to put a new joiner on it. Anyway, these are all the wires. So because they're all blue, they're all black. There's one I haven't labelled, plain blue, obviously goes to another blue. I've got one here, a black 2, that goes to another one down here, which is also labelled black 2. I've got the blue one that goes to an orange one, which is down here, so blue to orange, so I know that that's that one. And then the other black one is just black, which is also down there somewhere, disappeared. It's going to be fun finding that. So we should have a complete radiator disconnected with fans, off to do the good bit. Welcome to my workbench. It's as good as I can do, haven't got any other options. So when I fitted these, the bolt heads were, the bolt length was very long. And when I fitted it, I actually thought, oh, good idea, I'll just grind them off. Not so much of a smart move, methinks, because now I may have scuppered the threads and I might not be able to actually redo these, and I haven't got any more, so this might not go much further. However, I'm going to try. So what we got here, these are the other end. These are the other end of the bolts and the plates and the fibre washer just under there that go onto the fans, which are under there. And there's bolt heads there and there and there. Oops, I'm trying to lose it. Workbench not working very well. I'll have to secure it. So what I've got to do, basically, and they're still cool on this thing, is undo all of them. So got 10 mil. Yep, 10 mil. Because I've lost the other one, as you always do. 10 mil bottom, 10 mil top. I'm going to wind them all off. Getting them off will be easy. I just don't know if I'll be able to get them back on again. So I'm going to go through the process, take all them off, and then we'll drop the fan out, and we can go from there. And I'll show you what I'm going to try and see if it works. Right, that's all 8 of those off, and I've actually laid them out in here so that I know which one came from where. Yes, I know that's being picky, but I'm afraid I'm that way. So, and I want to make sure that I get the same bolt on the same nut on the same bolt. Now, I'm not comfortable with how these fans are fitted. There's no other way. I haven't got the ability or friends or anything like that. Not that I haven't got friends. I haven't got friends that work in the industry to make me a cowl to hold these fans, so I'm using the kit that came with it, which is basically just bolts, fibre washers that go through the fins. So we have fins. So the zigzaggy bits all through the middle in there, those bits that zigzag in and out, they're the fins. The lines, the solid lines through here, that's the water passage. That's where the water flows. The fins dissipate the heat from the water passage. Airflow going through the fins dissipates the heat from the water passages. So this design to fit the fans is that the bolt goes through the fins. I can show you one here because the bolt's fallen out. So that's what you have to do, which thousands of people have done, and it seems to hold right. But I just spent $400 and something on a new radiator, and I'm not that happy about having metal on metal. Basically the stainless steel bolt going through aluminium. I don't know metallurgy, but I don't want to risk it. So I want to insulate these bolts and give an extra little bit of side padding. So I have a plan, and I'll show you in a sec. I'm just going to drop all these bolts out, pile them up, and then I'll show you my plan. And I'd love to know your opinions when I do it, if it works. See what you think. Tell me if you think it's right. Tell me if you think it's wrong. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? Have I caused extra trouble? Please tell me. I'm guessing, and I'm just using what I would consider common sense to try this. I'll get the bolts out. I've got them in correct order, ready. I know where they're going. Just took a quick photograph. Another little tip, take lots of photographs if you're not sure. If you're anything like me, which is old, broken, people say I had a misspent use. Personally, I think it was a well-spent use, but the memory suffered a tad. So I take photos, and that way I know which way around they're meant to go. I actually put these on at the bottom of the radiator, and in retrospect think it was probably not the wisest move. I have auxiliary fans at the top at the front, which are air conditioning fans at the front of the Range Rover. So down in the bottom of there is another pair of fans for the air conditioner, and they actually line up with that part of this radiator. So I thought I'll put the fans down the bottom, that way they're getting a free flow. However, I've found that the radiator has hot spots, and one of those hot spots is this area. So that's where the hot water comes in from the engine, goes into this, and this area I found of the radiator was really hot, and then it cooled a bit this way, and then I've got the cold patch in the middle, which I think it's because it's blocked. So I'm going to move this one on the new radiator a bit further up, and then I'm going to leave this one down the bottom because that's the out, so the cold out, so it gets a hit with the fan just before it goes out of the radiator, and it also gets a hit with this fan at the top to cool instantly that very hot water that's coming straight into this part of the radiator. It's just a theory of mine. I know most people will put them both up here. I don't like having a double flow where I've got two fans going against each other, one behind the other, which is what will happen. So I'm splitting the difference. I'm going to put one there and one there on the new radiator. Now, let's find out whether my little trick that I think might help insulate these bolts from the metal, let's see if it works. Dudes, dudettes, I've come inside, the light's way better, and the breeze out there is making this tricky, but this is what I'm going to try and use, heat shrink. So let's see, I'll switch this camera around, and now we can do it. Heat shrink. I'm now behind the camera, best place for me. I always was told I had a good head for radio. Anyway, so I've got a few of these left over. This is what I'm using. No advertising, none of that. It's just stuff I've got lying around. So I've got a bit of that left over. There's 7 of them in there. The bolts, we know, don't go all the way through. They actually only go through the radiator 40mm, because the radiator's got a 42mm core actually, so 42mm. So they only go through that far. And this heat shrink fits on there, on that bolt, beautifully. So I think, given the length of those is that long, I can chop these in half and use them like that. So let's get going. So that's about half. You can see the accuracy of my measurements, and that'll do. So half, let's do a bunch of these. Actually, you know what? I might even time lapse this because you're going to get the gist. I'm going to do one and then I'll time lapse the rest. I'm hoping that's actually going to be enough. It should be. And we're going to play with fire. Little tiny bit of fire, and I'm not going to hold it because I'm not stupid. Well, there's other people who beg to differ about the stupidity thing, but given my history, but anyway, that's a that's a completely different story, one I might go into one day. So we're going to heat shrink this to the bolt, get it nice and tight all the way up, and my theory is that this will provide just a little bit of a layer of a cushion to stop metallurgy happening, reactions between different metals, and also a bit of cushioning for vibration. It may or may not work. It might be a total disaster. We will see. I'm just trying it. So that's good and tight. That should be fine. Knock that off. Yeah, it feels nice and tight, nice and firm. So I'm going to do the rest. I'll put them on time lapse. We'll get through them. We'll go see if we can get them through the hole. We have it. 8 heat shrinked bolts, and hopefully they will do the job. We should be okay. I guess we'll find out. I'm going to go and get the new radiator out, and here it is, the new radiator. Factory spec, if anybody is curious, this is for a 1996 Range Rover P38 4.6 V8. So I'm making sure, for a start, I've got it oriented the same as the ones that I've got out. So they're in the same orientation, top to top. And now what we have to do is open up some of these fins to make room. So we'll lay on one fan, keep the wire clear, and lay on one fan, see where I'd like to put it, make sure, you see the edge is important, don't go past that, but you've got to be close, and you've got to find the right spot where the hole and that hole lines up with the fins. So you can see in there is fins, not the water jacket. Water jacket pipe, not good. Touch them, in trouble, down the drain money. So you have to line them up so you're in the fins, and yep, that's in the fins, and that's in the fins. So that's one in place. And the second one, like I said, I'm going to offset these. If you've got an opinion, please give me your opinion. If offsetting is a good idea. I did have them side by side in the other one, which is actually a bit weird. I had them side by side, and now I go side by side. You see, you're following this adventure with me. I go side by side and they won't fit. That is peculiar. Let's go back and check. Oh, how's that? So, side by side, they fit. That's a little concerning. Side by side, at the top, right on the edge of there. What did I do wrong? Or am I pulling a dynamo? No, there's definitely something not right here. Okay. Tape measure time. I'll be back. Dudes and dudettes. Done the measuring. All the important stuff. So these little bits at the end that you saw before that slot into the mounts on the Beastie, on Rangery, they're all right. That bit where the little bolt, captured bolt and nut are, that measurement there to there is the same. The measurement between that and that is the same. It's just the core is about 20 millimeters short, which I don't think matters, because I actually know that radiator, the new one, is factory. This one, I have no idea of its history. It's not a Nissan, it's not a factory one. Probably been changed at some point in its life. What I have noticed, which I've never ever seen before in my 35 years of working on cars, check out that. Have you ever seen a radiator do that? Look at the bend in that. How does a radiator get bowed out lengthways? Really? Without leaking? I've never seen that, ever. And it's not just one side, it's that side. Sure, it's not the 20 mil, won't make up the 20 mil, but that's a heck of a bend for a core. So, yeah, probably just a cheapo radiator, just a generic part, not OEM, not the spec, but doesn't really matter. The other one will fit, so I'm going to, luckily, I was already going to change the layout. So what I'm going to have to do is that. So I'm going to have to do that, which is ideal, because that's what I wanted to do. So I've got that one lined up. I've just got to hope, I really hope, I have enough room to to line these holes up and still fit the fan into the space. So, this is the process. You're watching me do the process. I'm really sorry if you think it's a bit boring, but this is the most important part of this whole job. If you don't get these lined up right, you're in a whole world of hurt.
So I've got that on that line, which is that line, so that's just an angle, so I'm going to switch it over to that one. Alright, so I've got a little bit of an overhang on the edge here, but it's not right to the very edge, so I think I'm okay. With no room between them, it has to go here. I have to put this one here. So if I get them things lined up like that, and then like that, now I've got a little bit more play, and I can bring that across. Nice, tight. And push it up just a tad. Put it into some of that free flow, yeah. So I think we're good. We've got fins. Not quite. Almost. Alright, that is where they're going to sit.
And next bit is showing you how to do this. Well, I say correctly, do it the way I do it to be safe, to make sure there's no damage to the radiator. My tools for this job: a little spike, don't know what you'd actually properly call it, it's a spike thingy with a point on the end, with a gnarly bit in the middle. Yeah, it's a spiky thingy. And a generic standard Phillips screwdriver that comes as one of those that you can pull the end out, turn it around, comes with most things, but it's a really good size for the bolt, because the bolt and that are almost identical. It's tiny bit bigger than the bolt, which is exactly what you need. So I am going to get the spiky thing and try and down in there, so you can't, I wish I could show you, down in there, it's in between two of the fins, and very gently I'm going to push down in them fins, very gently. I'm not levering it backwards and forwards, I'm not levering it side by side, I'm just literally doing this and easing it through the fins until it pushes its way through the fins, gently through, almost all the way. How much have I got through there? Yes, just about. And now you can see a bit of a hole's opened up there. There you go, a bit more. A little bit more, and this time I'm going to slightly backwards and forwards, never that way, don't go that way, no, always with the direction of the water jackets, just trying to open that up just a little bit. It's that simple, and then you end up with a hole like that. Then, and ordinarily, I would do all four like that, remove the fan, and then just go in and do this. But for this purpose and this video, I'm going to do this and show you I can do this like this. But I can't see the fin, and that's why I don't like doing this. This is, again, the same thing. Very carefully. Putting a little bit of pressure down as I turn that to try and just open them fins up. Just have another little look, make sure I'm not doing any more other damage. It's all looking okay. Can't see all the way through because the light is terrible, I'm afraid, but I think I am through to the workbench. There you go, all the way through, like that. So we now have a hole all the way through between the fins. So I'll just mark off the others quickly, and alright, see, we have a problem. The fan moved, so you have to make sure you get that one in the middle and that one in the middle. It's really important. And then that has to also, another little tip, has to be in the very middle of the hole, not to the top, not to the bottom, in the very middle of the hole. And again, ease it down. Gently, gently, gently. No sideways. In and out and in and out. Move along to this one.
Again, in the middle of the hole, find the fin, middle of the hole, and work it down through. And there's 2 layers of fins, not just one. 2 layers of fins you have to push through. And then, same again, middle of the hole, middle fin, gently, gently, gently.
And also, make sure it's vertical. Don't go putting it in sideways, because there's 2 layers of these fins. The thickness of this radiator is that thick. You have 1 layer here, 1 layer here. You have to go through both. So it's important that that is vertical, so that you don't catch the water jackets at the bottom as you go through, which, trust me, is very easy to do. Ask me how I know. 35 years. Ask me how I know. There you go. So that's 1 marked off. I don't like doing this way. There's something, my gut says this is a horrible thing to do to a radiator. But like I said, without fabricating new mounts and everything else, which I can't do and I haven't got facilities for, this is the way. And this is how it came recommended from the fan company, Davis Craig, shout out to them. Awesome people, very helpful, not sponsored at all, paid, I don't know, $700 both for 2 fans, electric water pump, digital controller and all that. So spent the money, got the right stuff, and now we've just got to fit it. So let's line them up, see how we go. I do apologise for my videoing. Sometimes it's very difficult to hold and video while you're doing something, because I can only look at one thing at a time. But I'm trying to just line, obviously I'm just trying to line the holes up. And it's pretty bleeding obvious what I'm trying to do. So get the holes lined up. Now this is where the theory and the trick, shrink wrap down as you saw before, and we're going to find out now whether it'll go through the hole, because that shrink wrap has a little bit of thickness. What I don't want it to do is all concertina up when I push it in. So bit of force, and there it goes. Through the other side, and there it is. No damage done. Yeah, shrink wrap could have been a little longer. Yeah, could have shrink wrapped that just a little bit longer. But when I look at how much, I'll keep them in the order. Oops. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, I ignore that. You know what I said about keeping things in order? Yeah, scratch that. So what I'm looking at now, just as a test, I've got that much sticking through, but I've only got that much shrink. I've got that much sticking through, but I've only got that much shrink wrap on it. Which means the bottom of it is now actually touching that. Okay, you're following me on this journey. I'm going to go and put another little length of shrink wrap on to about there to have just that much coming through. So I'm just going to add a bit more shrink wrap. You've seen the process, don't need to show you again. Not going to show you how to suck eggs. I'll have another go, I'll be back. So, yep, there's a bit more shrink wrap on the end. Just see if this will go through, whether it will work. Still have a little bit of room to play. I gotta admire those people on YouTube that actually just do all the filming and everything on their own. It's actually really tricky. So, good on you folks, well done. Ooh, good. Alright, we'll feel of that. Why, oh why. I'm gonna move that over so it's not on the bottom of there. What's stopping that go through? It's vertical. I'm dealing with a brand new radiator, so I'm being extra cautious. I wonder if I can coax it. Oh, come on. if you can't push it in with your thumb, my theory is, then it's not good. It's too tight. Yeah, it's through. It's through. I think we're okay. That's 2. Now the fun bit. Now you've got 2 in the top. If these don't match up, there's a word for it that I'm not allowed to say because it'll get beeped out and I'll get de-YouTubed. Not that I'm YouTubed anyway. But I'm not going to do anything. If you get this wrong, these 2 won't line up. But I think we got lucky. That one is just a bit off. I don't like it, so I'm going to try just a gentle coax. Now, you see, these little bracket thingies, there's a little bit of play in them too. You'll find that with most of these types of thermo fans, that there will be extra little feet. There's lots of little holes you can use and clamps and bits you can use. All these, they're all fitting mounting points, all these things here. You don't have to go with the feet. I went with the feet because it lined up with the holes, and I also like there's a little bit of play in them. So you can, if you've got one like I have, that's not quite there, just move it so that it is, because I really don't want to damage this rad. And again, thumb pressure, if it don't go, it's too tight. Give it a jiggle just to get it centered. Try again. Beautiful. What I am feeling there is that is cushioned, and look at that. The actual heat shrink has gone all the way through. That's exactly how I wanted it to work. My theory, and it could be total rubbish, is that if there is any vibration when these fans are running, obviously over time, lots and lots of vibration. If there is any, my theory is that little bit of extra rubber between the stainless steel bolt and the aluminium core will be a good little cushion. It might achieve nothing. I might be doing overkill. There's people out there that probably go, that's just, you don't need to do that, Gary, you don't need to do it. Excellent, great, let me know. I'm doing it because I don't know. So I'm testing. Now, I'll get the other fan, I'll drop them others in, and I'll show you them with both fans, and we'll turn it over and we'll put the pads on. So as you can see, 2 fans are on. Awesome. Now, everything looks okay. I've checked underneath. Now we're just going to flip it over, and they should stay where they are. But I am going to hold it like that and that, just to make sure, and we're going to flip it and rest it on the fans. And this is where other people get horrified and go, well, what have you done? What have you done? No, it's okay. It's okay. I think. It's broken lots of the metal off the fins, but that's the idea. So you've got metal filings. All that is bits of the aluminium heat sink stuff, the fins, just breaking off when they've been pushing through, because it's really thin. It's designed that way to dissipate heat quickly. That's what they're for. They're meant to take the heat from the water jackets into the fins, and they've tried to create as much surface area of fin in this radiator as they possibly can. That's why they're like that. They're very thin, they absorb the heat quickly from the water jacket, and then they dissipate it quickly with the fan and the air blowing through it. That's what that is. It's just all about surface area. Hence, you get a 3-core fan, a 3-core radiator, much thicker. You've got another 33% more than you would have with a 2-core. So it's all about surface area. Bigger radiator, more surface area. That's what these are for. So don't worry about these bits that I'm just pulling off nonchalantly. Trust me, I don't like doing it either, but you've got to. And because we have a pet dog, bless her, love her to bits, I'm also making sure I don't drop any of this on the gravel floor so that she gets it in her foot. I'll get rid of these. I'll come back with the pads. These are the pads. I don't know how well you can see these, but they are a fibre washer. So that's a very thin, and it's a fibre. It's a fibrous material with a stainless washer. The fibre material goes onto the radiator. It's also a vibration absorbing material. So again, it's all about stopping vibration, slowly and surely cracking the radiator. So always remember the fibrous side. Some of them are rubber, but the soft one always facing the radiator. And then you put them on, and it won't go on because some muck has put heat shrink on it. So I'm now going to work out that problem of getting the heat shrink off that I've put on too far. So bear with me. It's a wonderful adventure. There you go. You just push it, it's fine. Now just push it, it's fine. There you go. Looks like I bought one. And then that on there. And I got so lucky. I might not be so lucky on them bottom ones. This Muppet face here, I forgot to see and check these washers, whether they've got enough room to fit from here to the edge. They haven't down the bottom there. We'll get to that. So now I just have room here. So fibre one first, that one second. This is where I thought I might have trouble getting the nuts back on because I ground off the top. As it turns out, not a problem. Not a problem. We're in. I'm going to go through and do the rest of these. I'll show you about tightening up because that's also a bit of a trick. The tightening up part is also something you've got to get right. Managed to get all those on, no problem. Those two there, yes, there was an overlap, but I did them one at a time, just basically slid the end down into the hole, and then, yeah, they went in one at a time. Just enough room, so I got very lucky. That was an oversight on my part. So if you are doing this, just be aware the washers are big and you need clearance. I wasn't, I was stupid. But this is how you learn. So this is something else I've learned. Tightening these kind of things where you don't want to over tighten. Yes, you could use a torque wrench. Brilliant pieces of kit. Overkill for this kind of job, to be honest. So I've got my own little system that I use. When you're trying not to tighten something too much, all right, most people, they get a spanner and they'll do that. So you hold it right at the end and you'll reef on that, and that's a lot of leverage. You've got all that length of spanner that you're levering on. The more length you've got there, spanner wise, there's an entendre there, I'm not going there. More length you've got, the better it is, apparently. Not that I've ever found that out, but anyway, if you bring your hand to here, and this is how I do it. I tighten holding the spanner right at the end, and you can't overdo it because you've only got a little bit of torque, basically, T-O-R-Q-U-E, torque, on the spanner. You're not doing too much leverage, so I tighten with that. Then that way you're not over tightening, you're not going to strip the threads, and you're not going to squash the radiator. Right, I'll try and show you what I mean with the tightening. Nylock nuts, by the way, I didn't explain, have a nylon bush in the top of the nut itself. That's like a locking bit thing. It prevents vibrations from winding the nut back out. So they're called a nylock. They are in Australia. Not sure in the US or Europe or everywhere else, but in Australia, that's what there is. Now this is what I'm talking about, tightening. So I'm just almost like two fingers, just gently pulling it up, and there, that's it. It's just really resisting me, that's it, you don't need any more. You start winding more, you're going to put a lot of downward pressure into these, into this, not just here, but this whole area around here. You're going to start to compress it. You don't want to be doing that. You're only holding them in place. This is not a structural element. It is merely to locate and hold in place. You don't need to overdo it. So you're going to have to put it in my ugly mug for this one. Hello folks. I feel like one of those people that just goes, wakes up and goes, hey. But there you are. So we'll do the same again. I've got to say, working outside, much as I'd like a nice workshop, I do like working outside. Although apparently now, it's now about 33 degrees. I'm just starting to feel a little bit warm, but that's okay. It'll be a hydration session time soon. That'll be fun. So again, she's just started to bite a bit. Fingers right at the head, not too much pressure. Wait for it to get to the point where it stops, basically. There. It's a big resistance. That means you've come to the point on the bolt that is the same as this width, the width of the coil, that stop point. Don't think I'll give it a half a turn. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's fine. It's good enough. There's two more over here. You can't see those. I'm going to do these two. We'll be back. So I flushed the engine by chucking a hose in that end, and chucking a hose up the bottom end, and then I ran it just for 30 seconds just to flush some of it out till the water coming out the bottom hose was pretty well clear. I also took the opportunity to stick a hose on the back of this and just spray it back through, clean it out basically, give them a wash out. They're the AC condenser rads, and then underneath there you can barely see it, transmission cooler. So we've got oil cooler, AC condenser and a transmission cooler all in a line there. I've blown back through, always wash through the opposite way to the way debris gets stuck in it. So debris comes from the front in, so you wash it from the back out. And that pushes any leaves, dirt, rubbish, crap, anything that's stuck inside. So I'll give that a wash too, and flushed it out. And while I was waiting for my phone to charge. So now when I go back underneath, I'm going to be laying in the swamp, but that's okay. I'm used to that. It's 34 degrees now, and storms on the horizon. So I better get onto this. Here we go. Gently, gently, gently. Important you get those pegs in the bottom, in the holes, which are really hard to actually see. I need that to go on that side. Also important to get these top bits in.
It's a bit of a juggle to get everything in and fitted, but it will go in. He says, with great fun and inspiration, because that's what I think. I'm going to go around the front line, these things, I'll probably back.
A white cockatoo. They like to keep you awake. They really like to wake you up at dawn, actually. God alarm. So, a bit of a battle getting everything lined up. It's important that you do.
One side in, but why is the bottom not going in? Not wanting to break. Interesting. That's not quite square, but
It's in the hole. Why aren't you doing it? Hey, there we go. In and in. Hopefully all my wires reach. They should, because I've moved a fan. And yeah, looks like all my wires are going to reach. Everything's in place. That's going to fit. That's going to reach. Fans are in. Job's a good one. Alright, I'll button this all back up. You don't need to see all this. Bottom hose, important. Don't forget it. Ask me how I know. Everything goes back on as it was. Fill it up with nice, fresh, clean water on its own. as I explained. Why? No coolant in this engine, 8 days. It's got to survive 14 kilometres. This engine has to get me from here to my mate's workshop where we're going to do the engine swap, which will be another video. Wish me luck. Just give you the tip, those 2 bolts in the bottom with the little square partially captive nuts are a real pain to get back in. They never quite line up. You have to get a screwdriver or a centre punch or something just to get the holes exactly right. So I didn't show you, you need 2 hands. Well, actually you need about 4. Yeah, and you wouldn't have enjoyed the cursing. So I did that on my own. I'm just going to fill the system. Everything is now buttoned up, bar this top hose and this overflow hose. Leave this off till last. In these engines, they get airlocks badly in the system. Fill the radiator. Hope no water comes pouring out, which it doesn't. It's always a good thing when water doesn't come out. These engines, you've got to keep the smoke in and the water in. It's like electrics. As long as you keep the smoke inside them cables, all good. Well, I can tell you for now, the old radiator was blocked because this one took a lot more water. So drop that out, drop that back on there like that. Crack my grill. No, I didn't. No, I just some more bones breaking. And that back on there, all good. Get my favourite clamp back in place. Back into about the same spot as before. Gently, gently, gently. Make sure that's good. That's all good. And now I'm going to continue to fill the expansion tank up until water comes out of here. You're meant to put these so that this is actually higher than the expansion tank to prevent airlocks, but because I've done it this way, I shouldn't have an issue. But you keep pumping water in there until it comes out of here. You'll see. So, let it up. You see what I mean? The expansion tank is full because I filled it from the bottom, and then I can just put that back on there. So that's what happens when you fill it from the bottom or from here. Somehow you manage to get the engine part full, and you can fill it radiator wise or through the top hose. It's always good, helps to stop airlocks. But now the system is full. I'll turn video off for a sec, just make sure everything's fine. Put this clamp back on it, and then we'll fire it up and get it up to temp, see the fans kick in, see what happens. Good to go. Let's kick it in the guts. Now, if you want to hear a Range Rover that sounds like it's got an air starter, if you know what an air starter is, put it in the comments. This thing sounds like it starts with an air starter because it's dropped a couple of cylinders. It may or may not come through on the video. Hopefully it does. You'll hear it. Let's hope and pray. And you can tell just by the vibration of the camera there that's sitting on top of the battery, this engine not helping. Is not happy at all. For all you naysayers say, never do that to a cold engine. This engine's dead, remember? Here it's going pop, 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 pop. So, hear that? So, that's a 6-cylinder V8. 6.5 cylinder V8. Sometimes 7. checking for is any fresh leaks under there. Nope. Any leaks there? Nope. Obviously no pressure in the system yet, but there's basically no water pouring out, no nothing. I'm not going to let you wait till it gets up to temperature. I've got an override switch for this fan, so I'll just leave this sitting here. I just want to make sure them fans kick in. So that's one. The other one, that's two. I can tell already, just by the temps in this radiator, that old radiator was blocked. The core of this one is warming up. So, dudes and dudesses, there you have it. One P38 Range Rover, 6.5 cylinder, new radiator, thermo fans with a heat shrink adaptation to stop vibration issues. I hope you enjoyed this. It was kind of fun making that. Might do a few more. Let me know what you think. Please, tips, advice, anything on videos or engines or whatever, I'll take it. You're never too young to learn. So this is a new thing for me. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you fellas, thank you ladies. Have fun, stay safe. Goodbye.